Welcome to All Pro Football Data. My name is Jim Coburn, and today's episode talking about Blake Corum, running back out of Michigan. We're going to be looking at him in terms of his data profile to kind of see how he projects at the next level. Blake was a first-team All-American in 2023. He also was first-team All-Big Ten in 2022 to 2023. And in today's video, we're going to be looking at how he profiles as a running back based on his production traits and athleticism traits, and also what he might become based on those statistical factors. So looking at the first place, which is his offensive market share data, he had a 60 percentile total offensive market share production score with a 34 percentile receiving market share production score, and then a 88 percentile touchdown market share production score. Based on these production traits, he kind of lines up with what most starters might do. There is a little bit of a concern with his receiving market share being as low as it is, but this is pretty much typical for most running backs who are kind of like power-based running backs. Running backs that don't typically catch the football in the backfield that much are mainly just used, in first and second down, if you will. And also in goal line situations, obviously, which is why the touchdown number is as high as it is. Now, based on his efficiency score, so you can pause the video real quick to kind of see that, his efficiency data, he was interesting. His touch or average yards per touch efficiency score was very low. It was basically in the 10 percentile, slightly above, maybe the 15 percentile. And then, of course, his receiving or average yards per reception was also very low, which is usually indicative of a running back who is used mainly in the screen games, short yardage, those types of situations. But he did have a very high TD percentage. So all that we really can say about him efficiency-wise is that when the ball is in his hands, he's not going to get a ton of yardage. He's not going to get a lot of yardage if you throw him the football, but he is going to end up in the end zone. Because, again, a lot of backs who have his production profile primarily are backs who fit that role on the team. And I know a lot of people are going to talk about, well, just because he did that role in college doesn't mean he's not going to be in the NFL. But, again, I'm just explaining to you some of the nuances of it as far as with efficiency data. Now, moving on to his athleticism traits. This is a big reason why I wanted to do this video, because he did test well as an athlete. He had a 60 percentile explosion score, 60 percentile in terms of speed, and he also had a 90 percentile score in terms of flexibility for his size, which is an elite athleticism trait indeed for his size. Flexibility, of course, takes into account things like the short shuttle 3-cone and the 40-yard dash to determine how dynamic his speed is. These are great numbers, athletically speaking, for him. Now, when you look at his adjusted production scores, though, so we're going to get back into production by looking at the context for his production. How productive was he for his age, his level of competition, and, of course, his strength of schedule. And when you look at these numbers for him, 16 percentile for his age, 75 percentile in terms of the MSA rating, and then 51 percentile for his pass rating. And the pass rating kind of deals with his overall production plus his efficiency score. So kind of a little bit all over the place. Doesn't quite have the same measures that you would want to see from a long-term starting running back, but he does hit at least above the threshold. So there is some positives there for him based on these particular metrics from that perspective. Now, in terms of comparisons for him, these are all the running backs who tested very similar to Blake Corum based on his production traits. So these are guys like Zach Line, Cameron Artis-Payne, Jake Funk, Tim Cornette, Anthony McFarland. These are all the running backs who tested kind of similar to Corum from a production standpoint. But of course, his age kind of does limit a lot of things. His age kind of drops him a lot in terms of his production traits. I think the overall outlook for Blake comes down to this. I think he profiles as a backup to outlier Pro Bowl running back. He has athleticism traits. and flexibility for his size that can contribute to high quality outcomes at the next level. The biggest red flags in his profile are his age and lack of receiving production. I think Corum is a back that can find success in the NFL, but there is as many red lights as there are green lights for him in terms of his profile. So, in many ways, you have a back who does have good production. If he was, say, 21 years old in this, in this particular draft class, Corum would definitely be somebody I think you should definitely consider, as one of the best backs in this class based on his athleticism and his production traits. But because of how older he is, because his production, his receiving production, again, wasn't that great in terms of market share data. His total offensive market share also wasn't that great. I mean, there's many reasons for it, but those are the concerns. I think overall, you could bet on him and get a good back. Again, he has the athleticism traits to be the best back out of this class, realistically speaking, because of his elite flexibility traits. So you kind of have to do your bets however you want to do it. If you really like him on film, I think you definitely should go with him and go with your general gut. If you are somebody who's a little on the fence about him, then you might want to get off of that train a little bit. So it's all the eye of the beholder, so to speak. But as a data person, he just has a very scratchy production profile and athleticism profile to a certain extent. His age and everything else about him, the context of his production, just makes him a back that I think you have to kind of pause on a little bit compared to other backs in this particular draft class. But with all that stuff out of the way, thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Jim Coburn. You can follow my other work at Geometrics on X, formerly known as Twitter. Also check out my Patreon page, patreon.com/jcoburn. Also, please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps the channel out a lot when you guys do that. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Peace.